So this time next week, we will have a new Deputy Prime Minister. As part of the coalition agreement, it was decided the role would be shared, with Winston Peters covering the first half of the term and David Seymour taking the second. So what can we expect from David Seymour as Deputy Prime Minister? Does it actually mean anything? And how does he rate the coalition government's first 18 months? David Seymour is in the studio with me. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for popping in.
Yeah,
appreciate
that.
So next time we talk, you will be Deputy Prime Minister. And I think I've got probably two parts to this question here. What does that role mean to you?
In a way, it is highly symbolic. It doesn't actually change my job day to day. It means that I'll spend a bit more time covering for Chris if he's out of Wellington or out of the country. However, for the most part, my job remains the same. I'm a Minister for Regulation. We're trying to deal to red tape and a few jobs in health and education and so on beside that. But in another sense, I think it does mean a lot, because ACT represents a group of people who, for various reasons, have been pretty beaten down. You know, you think about the period of the last 6 years. If you were a small business owner, a farmer, if you're a landlord, if you're a licensed firearm owner, you're someone who maybe had a slightly different view about the government's response to COVID, you had a pretty rough time. And I think in a way to see that your party can be at the centre of government and hold a position like that, I think will mean something for a lot of people who felt they'd been a bit marginalised in New Zealand society.
What about for you personally?
Oh, look, I'm proud of the achievement. I think, if anything, it shows we live in a great country. You know, if you be yourself and back yourself, you might be surprised how much support you get. And I think that's an important thing for all of us. You know, I don't claim to be, the greatest hard worker, but I work pretty hard. And I don't claim to be the most virtuous person, but I think I have my heart in the right place. And I know I'm a bit quirky. That's called self-awareness, but it shows if you're a bit quirky, you work hard and you've got a good heart, you can succeed in this country, and I think that's great.
You mentioned that sort of functionally day to day it doesn't change your job, but when the Prime Minister does leave the country, does it have an impact?
Well, I mean, it means I'm the acting Prime Minister. Some people are terrified of what this will mean, and I just want to give you some reassurance. It's actually already happened a few times when Chris and Winston have been away. I've been acting PM, and it can have a bit of an effect. I mean, you might remember there was that CrowdStrike problem where some software had blown up, some security software, ironically, and it looked like there could be major computer failures of systems through the financial sector and calling an ambulance or dispatch systems for police. And so I heard about this on the radio as breaking news that it was happening somewhere else in the world. And I thought, oh, yeah, someone ought to do something about that and check New Zealand's all right. And then I thought, oh,
hang on.
I'm acting PM today, so I called the office and said, guys, are you hearing this? So I think we better find out what's going on.
If you were acting Prime Minister, what would be the worst thing that could happen? Do you have a little nightmare in your head, scenario in your head?
Well, I mean, you know, the really terrible things that have happened in New Zealand. I mean, you know, earthquakes, shootings, floods. I mean, I'd rather none of those things happen. Although the other time, I've probably done it half a dozen times, but another time I was doing it in the Chinese government decided to send a flotilla of warships past New Zealand.
So maybe you're jinxing things a bit.
Yeah.
Has Winston done a good job?
I think he's done a very good job in the thing that he loves doing, and actually the thing he'll continue to do, which is being Foreign Minister. You know, Winston has some really unique talents. He is a person who I think is very charismatic, and if you've got to pick a citizen to go and sort of be our representative as Foreign Minister, then I think he's done a good job at that. And the good news is, you know, just as the DPM thing doesn't make that big a practical difference, he can keep doing it.
Will we notice any difference with you in this role? You know, as you say, you're quirky, you're quite outspoken. Will you be at all restrained by the title?
In some ways, I mean, you have a job speaking on behalf of the government, but I already have that to some extent. I mean, if I'm talking as the leader of ACT, then I'll quite openly say, look, this government's getting a lot of stuff right, but you know, there's stuff that ACT would do differently, and we don't hide that. I think it's healthy to have differences that you can discuss in a mature way. On the other hand, if I'm speaking as the Minister of X, Y or Z on behalf of the government, then I absolutely support the government position, and I'll certainly be aiming to show people I can do a very good job as DPM too.
Because there have been times when you have publicly disagreed with your coalition partners, including the Prime Minister, or corrected one of them and things. How does that go down?
Well, I just make the point that every time I've had any kind of public disagreement, it has been in response to comments made about me. So I know some people will say that sounds like the adult equivalent of he started it, but that's actually true in each case. And in reality, we have a changing system of government. If you look at Europe, there's 20, 30 odd democracies there, and for the most part, they have sometimes 3, 4 parties working together in one government. We traditionally haven't had that in New Zealand, but with MMP, we seem to be moving towards it.
We're around halfway through this parliamentary term, and it has been a reasonably fast-moving government. Have you achieved what you set out to achieve? You're happy with where you're at?
Yeah, I think first of all, it's a work in progress, but we can point to very good progress. Let me point to Chris Hipkins' quote. He said the government changed because of the 3 Cs, the cost of living, the crime, and the co-government. And in each case, I think the government can point to substantial action and improvement, but also our critics can rightly say that we are not ready to do victory laps either. The 4th issue that has emerged is health. But if you go through them, we inherited inflation at 5.5%, 5.6, I think. It's now 2.5. Interest rates peaked at 5.25 at the Reserve Bank, now down to 3.5 and looking likely to keep falling. So we've I think in terms of the cost of living and getting the economy moving, still a lot of pain out there, but it's really moved in the right direction. The crime, we've abandoned being kind to criminals and waiting for them to be kind back. Now we're saying, look, consequences first, then we can rehabilitate, all for rehabilitation, but lock them up first. And I'm proud that one of ACT's things was we've got to increase prison capacity and potentially population if people offend. We just put $500 million into more prison capacity, so we're proud of that.
How do you approach the second half of this term? Is it about pushing ACT's agenda or tightening the coalition for re-election?
It's both of those things. My goal will be to keep the government, because I just saw Chloe Swarbrick's budget speech, and Chloe's someone I came in 3 years before her. I've got a lot of time for Chloe at a personal level, but I think the economics that she's pushing is increasingly unhinged and has nothing to do with the environment. It's the other big thing about the Greens Party these days. We've got to keep them out. The second thing is, while the government, I think, has done pretty well on the 3 Cs and will continue to do well, there are bigger challenges that New Zealand faces, longer-term challenges. And I think one of the big debates of the next 5 years is we can either tax more to fill in a deficit, we can spend less, or keep borrowing. And that keep borrowing is not really an option, it's a delaying tactic. So eventually we're going to have to tax more or spend less. Now, people may not realise it because, you give a capital gains tax. New Zealanders already pay more tax than anyone else on the Pacific Rim. You go to Japan, Mexico, Canada, Singapore, wherever. Australia is the obvious comparator. We already pay more tax. We are going to have a smaller, more efficient government, in my view, because if you put more tax, more people will leave, and we can't afford that.
David, is there a little handover on Saturday, the 31st? Is there sort of a handshake between you and Winston? Does anything official happen to take on this new title?
Winston's actually off. I'm not sure exactly where he is now. He was going from Australia to Sri Lanka last night, I think, and then he's going to India. So I assume he hasn't scheduled that because of this. But no, he won't be there. But I am doing a short ceremony with the Governor General. I hope it's not going to involve swords or anything, but it might be something like that.
Never know. David Seymour, thank you very much for your time this morning and coming in. Really appreciate it.